Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A, removed for specials at this stage. Yeah, so what we're in this session is catamaran or sailboat related questions, which I will be answering over the course of the next hour or so. If you're not able to be watching this live and you're watching it later on, then if you have got any questions regarding either your boat setup, maintenance issues, you can't get your rudders right, or if there's something that you're not quite hitting the spot on with your actual sailing, put it in the comments below and I'll respond to it in next week's session. Very nice. Okay, so it really does look like the summer is starting now down in Vassiliki, Lefkas, Greece. We've been open now for 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, really, some pretty turbulent conditions, but now it does look like we're on for come next week. After the weekend, wall-to-wall sunshine, champagne sailing conditions, good times, mermaids serving pints on the water, hot dogs and all sorts of things like that. So good times are ahead. There we go. I think that was an introduction. I'll just check in with everybody who's checking in. Hello to Ryan. I believe you are probably winning the earliest in the morning prize. Always great to have you on board. Who else we got? We've got Jan Leo. Of course, Jan Leo is a tornado sailor from Germany. A non-sailing question. All right, here we go. If there were to be a movie about your life, what special events would be portrayed and which celebrity would play Joe Bennett? Oh my goodness, now that is a big question. Yeah, I think I'm not sure about the younger version of me who would play him, but I've often been compared with my unique facial styling and haircut to not sure if you're familiar with the series Breaking Bad, but I believe his name was Heisenberg in Breaking Bad. He knocks twice. Yeah, so he would play the older version. Anyway, special events. We could go on for some time. What special events would be portrayed? Yeah, I think definitely the 2000. What? No, earlier than that. The 1995 Forts race down in the southeast of England. That was the big turning point. Talk about that later. Just going to check in with everyone else who's checking in. We've got Chris on board in Texas. Nice to have you with us, Chris. We've got Johnny on YT. Great to have you with us, Johnny. Leland Lee's with us as always. Clearwater, Florida. Chris says, had some 18-knot runs last week. Last week's sailing was beyond awesome in Texas. Very pleased to hear that. It's always nice to know that people are getting some quality conditions. All right, we've got Kevin checking in from Kiel in Germany. Kiel, of course, is one of the most famous sailing venues in all of Germany, up in the north on the Baltic Sea, I believe. Great to have you with us, Kiel, Kevin. Right, we've got Cux Ollie with us. I will pull over my neoprene just now and go sailing. I will look forward to this episode afterwards. Thanks a lot for the great content. Thank you very much, Ollie. Always a pleasure. Have a great sail. Good luck to you out there. Russell's on board. Nice to have you with us, Russ. Good to see you. Have a great weekend. Oh, yes, it's actually my small boy's birthday tomorrow. So I think the good weekend is definitely on the cards. And in fact, just to start his birthday weekend off, we just had our first test drive on the Asiwo Manta sea scooter. Yeah, it's warmed up enough now. We've been in the sea scooting, and we didn't stop laughing. Well, we were underwater. You can't really laugh underwater, but it was very funny. Yeah, but it looks like good times on the water and off are ahead. Hello to Hanny in Amsterdam, I believe. Hello to sailors everywhere, she says. Great to have you with us, Hanny. Right, Johnny on YT says, I was considering getting a Nacra 16 square. What are your thoughts? Oh, is the Nacra 16 square? Hold on, let's just look this up. Nacra 16 square. I didn't know there was one called the Nacra 16 square, to be quite honest. Oh, right. Okay, I see. It is, yeah, 16. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I obviously know about these things. I didn't look it up on Google at all. The Nacra 16 square is a, it looks like a predominantly single-handed boat. I'm guessing it's 16 feet long. And yeah, it looks good as a single-hander anyway. Yeah, to be quite honest, all that I know about it is what I'm seeing now on Google. But it really does look like a nice boat. Sort of, what would you? Yeah, deep daggerboard hulls, high aspect mainsail. So in the boats that I'm more familiar with, this is a quite obvious comparison to the FX1. The hull shape is quite different, but I would guess it would handle quite similarly to the FX1. Just the mainsail on the Nacra 16 square. So sort of like FX1 A class kind of thing, but I don't think you'd be expecting the same level of performance as an A class because of the weight of the boat. Let's just see if we can call up some specs. Oh, it's 135 kilograms. Yeah, whereas an A class generally weighs in at under 100. So yeah, I think it definitely looks like a good choice. If there's one available in your area going for a good price, then I don't see why not. But it's not actually until you get on the boat and you sail it that you will know what it's actually like. All right, Jan Leo says, great actor choice. Also, I'm looking for a crew for the Tornado Europeans in Austria. Wow, this is a good opportunity. Jan Leo says, if anybody will be in the area and is keen, then get in touch with him. What I'd suggest to you, Jan Leo, is get on the Discord server. You'll find the link to the Discord server, which is geared up for people finding people to sail with. Yeah, check it out in the description of any of the videos of recent times on Joyrider TV. But perhaps already somebody is either watching this now or they'll be watching it later and they'll be saying, yes, I fancy a piece of that. So I think the dates for, if you could just put the dates for the Europeans in the live chat there, Jan Leo, then I can let them know when that is. But a great opportunity to get on the race course. Jan Leo sailed in the Worlds last year, so it's not his first rodeo. Yeah, so get involved if you can. All right, Leland Lee says on a Hobie 16, can you talk about the telltales on the mainsail, head leech near the foot, and on what points of sail or speed they should be used? Okay, I'll just draw a picture. So this is the first question. We are going to talk about telltales on the mainsail. So we generally have telltales as standard on a boat like a 16. You just have telltales in the body of the sail. So you'd have a pair here, a pair here. This is approximately maybe 4 pairs of telltales. Like this. But I think it is, if you're going to be taking your sailing fairly seriously and you are looking to get on, you're going on the race course and you want to be competitive, then it would certainly, if we just insert some battens here, it would certainly be worth putting a few leech telltales on as well, because you're going to get more information. And the great thing, so firstly, let's talk leech telltales. The really good thing with having these telltales on the leech, the back edge of the sail, is they're really good for quick reference. All you have to do is glance up at the sail and you will see immediately whether your sail is too tight, too loose, whether you've got too much twist, not enough twist in the sail, all of those things. So firstly, before we go into the how do we correct it and what should we be looking for, how they work, if we look from the top of the sail. So there's the sail. And then there's the leech telltale there. We seeing that? Maybe not so easy to see the colours. But if we've got an even flow of air over the sail like this, then we can see that when that airflow leaves the sail, it's going in the same direction as the back of the sail, which means our leech telltale is going to be happy. Okay. The next one is if the sail is too loose, although sometimes too loose isn't actually too loose, it's just undersheeted at that part of the sail in relation to the telltale. So it means we've got more wind on the back of the sail than the front of the sail, because if the sail's out, we're not getting so much airflow on the inside of the sail. Then this leech telltale is still going to be flying straight back. So if it's flying straight back, it means it's either absolutely perfect or out a little bit too far. Good so far? Now, with any type of sailing, if you're trying to get good performance out of your boat, you either want to have your sail sheeted in perfectly or a little bit too loose. You never want to have the sail a bit too tight unless you are deliberately trying to slow down. So a bit too loose or perfect. Now, of course, perfection is difficult to achieve with the wind forever changing. And we've also got a likelihood that perhaps the battens in your sail aren't necessarily going to be completely even. You know, if you're lucky enough to have a very new boat with new battens, then they should be pretty even. But as the battens get older, they will degrade at not all at the same rate. Like probably the shorter ones are going to be under more tension more frequently, so they'll probably go a bit softer before the bottom ones, perhaps. Because of that, it is very difficult to achieve perfection. And you know, the sail, unless it's tight, is like constantly moving. So to have it absolutely perfect all the time, difficult to achieve. So how do we know if the sail at that point is too tight. So if it's too tight, it means we've got too much wind in the inside, the side of the sail that we can see. And then that wind is basically going to fall off like that when it reaches the back edge, which means our telltale, I'll make the telltale a bit bigger, is going to go off like that, which means from your position on the windward side, you're not going to be able to see it. Is this all making sense? I hope so. All right. So if you can't see the telltale at any point on the sail, it means that part of the sail is too tight. Okay, that's number one. Number two. So what we are looking to get, if we've got 4 telltales on the leech of the sail, due to this problem with perfection, and it's very difficult to get or near impossible to get, what we're looking for is to have 3 out of those 4 telltales flying. Now, because the lower part of the sail is more directly linked to the main sheet, so when we pull the main sheet in, the part of the sail that becomes tighter first is the lower part. So when we pull it in initially, the bottom of the sail will be in, but the top of the sail will still be out, which means the bottom, the lowest telltale on the leech is going to disappear first. So what we're looking to do when we're trimming the sail, if we've got it set up as good as possible, is just for that bottom telltale to have disappeared, but the others to still be flying. Yeah, so this is going to require quite some adjustment, or a bit of, quite a lot of work to get it absolutely in the sweet spot. But that is what's going to give us that slight benefit on the race course. If we get rid of 2, then you might just either, if you're sailing a boat which doesn't have a jib, then perhaps that's an indication that you're not sailing close enough to the wind. Or if you are sailing a boat which has a jib, that could be either an indication that you're not sailing close enough to the wind, or it could mean that you've got the sail in too tight. So you just need to loosen it off a very small amount. Okay, hope you're all still with me. All right, so basically, these are going to be saying something quite similar to the telltales in the body of the mainsail. So with the telltales in the body of the mainsail, what we've got here, because we're looking from the starboard side of the boat, the green ones are the ones on this side, the red ones are the ones we can see through the sail. So if the ones on the outside of the sail aren't flying, that means the same as the leech telltales disappearing. Means that the sail is either in too tight or we're not sailing close enough to the wind. We're generally, it's upwind where the real science comes in here with what we're doing with the telltales. It's relevant on other points of sail, but it's upwind, which is the real trick shot to get it right. Okay, hope you're all still with me. We're going pretty deep here. So if the outside telltale at any point isn't flying correctly, we should let the sail out a bit or head up into the wind if we're not already hard enough into the wind, because outside one not flying correctly means the sail is in too tight. If the inside one isn't flying straight back, if this inside one's flying straight back, this one's flying, and this one isn't, then like we said for the leech telltales, we're going to be happy with that as a sweet spot, because we can't get them all absolutely perfect at all time. So what we do want is a bit of twist. Twist means that the top of the sail, this is the top of the sail, is open a little bit more than the bottom of the sail. So as you go up, if we look at this, it'll go out like that as we go up. So we're looking for twist. Twist is very good for acceleration. So when we're sailing along, we want the boat to accelerate out of any gusts. So that is why we're looking for twist. I hope that hasn't fried anybody's brain this early in the session. We can also alter what's happening with the sail by using the downhaul as well. As the wind increases, of course, we'll pull the downhaul on more. As we pull the downhaul on, it's going to introduce more natural twist into the sail, and it's going to loosen the leech of the sail towards the top, which means we can then sail with more main sheet tension while we're keeping our telltales in the sweet spot. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that there before going any deeper. I think that's deep enough for now. I hope that helps there, Lee. All right, back into the live chat. Chris says, remember, okay, here we go. Events time. June the 17th, the Texas coast, we have the Texas Dash Regatta, 42 miles up the Texas coast from Freeport to Galveston. Now that sounds like my sort of day out. Yes, please. I think once I've hit retirement and the world tour has started, things like this are what I would be very keen on getting involved with. Yeah, nice one, Chris. Good luck with that. So if you can get to Texas to the what is it, the Gulf of Mexico coastline, June the 17th, get involved. That sounds like real fun. All right, Cucks Ollie says, please put the like button. Yes, if you are watching this and you are still functioning after all that Telltales chat, then hit the like button. It just helps for the video to be promoted to more people. All right, so Russell says, what are your thoughts on the aero trampoline on the Goodall? Seems like other manufacturers are not doing it yet. Do you think this has advantages? Yeah, so I've talked to someone who is very knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable than me on this topic. So what Russell is asking is, on the Goodall boats like the C2 and the Viper, it is available to get what they call it, an aero trampoline. Basically, now, all right, the aero trampoline could be one of two things. One is the aero. It might be that it is the boat is available, or you can buy for the boat like a deck sweeper trampoline, which is like a solid trampoline, not mesh, not vinyl. It's kind of more like sailcloth. It's very stiff and it doesn't let any air go through. And when you tighten it, it is the flattest trampoline you will ever see. These are very common in the A-class boats. And what this does is it basically, in science, it puts an end plate on the deck sweeper mainsail. So if you're not aware of the deck sweeper mainsail, let's change this into a deck sweeper. So if this is a rather wobbly top of the boat, of the hull, so the sail will come down like this, and then it will really sweep the deck, like come all the way down. Now, apparently, what the end plate kind of theory does, it works in the same way as those little things on the end of airplane wings. It stops the air from escaping off the end at that end, which means you're keeping more power in the sail, which is going to make you go faster. I think that's the bottom line. So it stops any spill or sort of foot vortex, you might call it, where wind is going underneath. So with the deck sweeper trampoline, with it being absolutely solid, it means that the air can't pass through the trampoline, making this deck sweeper sail even more efficient. And it's reducing drag as well because it's so flat. So the air, as you're going forwards, this air coming this way doesn't have any resistance on that as well. Now, there is another thing that the aero trampoline might be, and that is if we go, here's the front beam, here's the back beam. If you haven't seen this, you will say, what? So we've got our normal trampoline here, or the deck sweeper trampoline. And then what we can also have on available for certain boats, common on the A-class boats again, and a lot of the Formula 18 boats are, you know, the technology is being passed down from the A-class boats. The A-class really is at the cutting edge of the design and aerodynamics and stuff for the catamarans. So there's a second trampoline that basically goes between the beams, creating, so this is flat under here. Now, what that does is if you were to look at the boat from the front, we're looking straight onto the front of the boat. There's the Dolphin Striker. Now, what we've got is some sort of wind tunnel where the wind goes between the hulls like that as we go forwards. And what this under trampoline does is it removes friction from that wind tunnel, because without it, if you think how the wind's going to go, it's going to hit the front beam and we're going to have all sorts of turbulence under here. And that turbulence, again, it all adds up to more resistance, more drag, which is going to slow the boat down. Might only be a very small difference, but by having this under trampoline on, it means we're not going to get that drag and the boat is going to just slip through the wind as effortlessly as possible. So there we go. Disadvantages of this under trampoline is it obviously doubles the amount of trampoline you have to fit to the boat. Another, and if you do have to do any work to like your trapeze elastics, your downhaul system, your spinnaker system, anything that goes under the trampoline, you have to take this bottom trampoline off to access it. That is the main disadvantage, as well as, of course, the cost of getting one. Another advantage is, as well as making this wind tunnel more efficient, it also keeps all of those lines like encased. So it's a lot tidier under the boat. So there you go. I think that pretty much covers it. All right. We've got Phil on board. Hi, guys. Hello, Phil. Great to have you on board. All right. So Johnny on YT said, did you also know that we have a boat called the Nacra 18 Square? I'm thinking it's only manufactured in Australia, though. Is the 18 Square pretty similar to the Nacra? Right, just looking that up while we're here under the banner of why not? You know, every day's a school day. Yeah, it does look very similar to the 16 Square, just a scaled up version. So that is a pretty beefy looking single-handed boat, the 18 Square. Yeah, that would be very interesting to have a spin on one of those. Nice. All right. Chris says there are plenty of 18 Squares in the States. It's a 5.5 with wide beams and a uni-rig. Uni-rig, by the way, means just single sail. All right. Phil says, what do you think of the Nacra 5.2? to sail slowly. My last ride on a beach cat was 20 years ago. Yeah, I think yeah, it's certainly the right sort of size. Let's just put this into the supercomputer. 5.2 m. It is 17 feet long. So again, similar to FX1 kind of dimensions there, probably not quite as wide. Yeah, so I think one consideration when you're looking at a boat to sail solo, and this is actually going to bring us into our first preloaded question today, is how heavy is the boat? To two aspects of the weight of the boat when solo, especially. One is maneuvering the boat on land. Can you actually get it out of the water when you've finished sailing? The boat's too heavy. That is going to be an effort. That's why the A class is mega lightweight, so that you can pull it out of the water afterwards, as well as the performance, of course. But the other thing with the weight of the boat, a lot of the weight of the boat is going to be in the rig if it's a heavier boat. And if the rig is heavy, it means it's going to be more difficult to bring the boat back upright in the event of a capsize. So there we go. So in the preloaded question on that topic, we've got, in fact, it's from Phil in France. So I think, Phil, that might actually be you who asked the question. Yeah, it could well be, actually. So Phil earlier on asked in the preloaded questions, what about the Dart 18 versus the Hobie 16 as a good boat for sailing both solo and with a friend? So firstly, in the weight category, the Dart 18 would win there, with it being lighter. I'm just using Google a bit today. See what she's weighing in at. Give us some stats. 130 kilos, the Dart 18, whereas the Hobie 16 is 140 kilos. So it's only 10 kilos, but 10 kilos on a sailing boat, that is reasonably significant. So on weight, that is a win for the Dart 18. But the payoff for the Dart 18 being lighter is that the hulls are much more fragile. In fact, the hulls and the mast, the beams, in fact, the whole boat, the whole Dart 18 is more fragile than the Hobie 16. I would say the Nacra 5.2 sits somewhere in the middle. Although one of the things with the 5.2, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the 5.2 has got dagger boards on it. So having dagger boards does make the boat more fragile, even if the hulls are heavier built, because if you strike something with the dagger board, you could create pretty serious damage, not only to the dagger board, but also to the case in which it sits, which is a pretty involved repair if you crack your dagger board case, which would definitely have to be carried out by a professional boat builder. So on the weight versus durability, there we go. So that also answers durability. Hobie 16, clear winner. Also in the very durable class, any of the old asymmetric hulled Prindles as well, like the 15 or the 16. If you're going to be sailing with a friend, I would go for the 16, just so that you've got more volume and more space for sailing with two people. The next point in Dart 18 versus Hobie 16. The Dart 18 is actually designed from when it was first designed. It was designed to be able to be sailed by either one or two people, even on a race course. like with no handicap adjustment required. All you have to do if you want to sail the Dart 18 solo is leave the jib at home, and then you are sailing it as it's been designed, which I very much like. I do like sailing the boat with the correct amount of people on board. Although you might say, but Joe, I've seen you sailing a Hobie 16 solo probably as much as you've been sailing with other people. Yes, it is true, but that's really fun as well. Okay, so maybe disregard that. The Hobie 16 isn't quite as ideal as a single-hander because without the jib, you do need to rig something up to keep the rig tension on. It does sail pretty well without the jib, but yeah, it's not as perfectly arranged for that as the Dart 18. There we go. Now, number 3, power. The Hobie 16 is massively more powerful than the Dart 18. A Dart 18 in 12 knots of wind isn't going to be tickling along too gaily, whereas the Hobie 16 is going to be clipping in that sort of wind, because the sail area on the Hobie 16 is, I think it's, I'm just guessing here, but it's got to be at least 8 square meters bigger on a Hobie than on the Dart. So if you're going to be sailing more in light winds, that's probably a win for the Hobie 16. There we go. What else? Yeah, Hobie 16, if you're sailing with 2 people, we've got double trapeze. Dart 18, you can't put you could put a double trapeze on your Dart 18, but if you're going to put more than, I don't know, about 160 kilograms, probably less, 140 kilograms on the trapeze, I would worry about damaging the mast, because the mast is not as beefy a section as on the Hobie. So there we go. There are some points there to consider, but if you want something durable, more powerful, double trapeze, Hobie 16. If you want something lighter, perhaps a larger wind range, although the in light winds you won't get the excitement quite as early, but because of the smaller sails, you can still sail a Dart 18 in more wind single-handed than you would be able to the Hobie 16. There you go. I'm going to leave that there. I think there's quite a lot to think about there already. All right, so back in the live chat where we were kind of live and preloaded there simultaneously. All right, we got Matthew on board from Baltimore, USA, just finishing up building a sail storage tube for my trailer, and then hitting the water. Great stuff. This is very exciting that people are going sailing. I like that a lot. If you are going sailing this weekend, in fact, I forgot to mention, I have just before we started this afternoon or this morning, I've just updated the speed stick. If you want a quick link right now to the speed stick, just scroll right to the top of the live chat, and I've put the website address there for the speed stick. If you're on it, or if you're not on it and you're going out sailing and you're sort of thinking, let's see what I have to do to actually get in the points. Yeah, get involved, get on the stick. All right, we've got Declan on board, who is afloat but tuning in. Wow, I think that might actually be a first, that somebody is tuning in from their catamaran. So nice to have you with us, Declan. All right, Johnny says, what are your thoughts on the Nacra 18 square? Yeah, I think we did that. All right, we got Scott dropping it in the slot. He's in San Diego, but there's no wind. Shame. Yeah, I think Scott is going to be eyeing up renting a getaway to join the Speed Stick Getaway Challenge, where the winner will take home at the end of the season, the year, sorry, be taking home a Malcheski Composites telescopic tiller extension. Very nice. All right, Willis is on board. He's caught us live for a change. Nice to have you with us. Okay, so earlier on we mentioned that Jan Leo is looking for somebody to crew on his Tornado for the Europeans. The dates are July the 18th to the 22nd, and the venue is a lake in Austria, which is the conditions expected are, if it's a good regular weather pattern at the time, expecting like 14 to 18 knots of wind daily. So it sounds pretty champagne for some tornado racing. Yeah, so get involved. Let Jan Leo know. If you can't get in touch with him directly, just send me an email or put it in the comments. And then I'll put you guys in touch. Or get on the Discord server. Right. We got Dagoberto Ruben Aguilero Gonzalez on board. Hello. Join your Q&A from Mexico. Great stuff. Nice to be hitting all of the corners of the globe while we're talking about catamaran sailing. When the best time to sail in Vassiliki Bay? This is a good question. And where else in the world do you recommend to sail a Hobie 16? All right. Best time to come out for the most consistent wind in Vassiliki Bay, Vassiliki Lecus, Greece, is July and August. Now, if you want to come out, if you wanted it when it's slightly less busy, it does get reasonably busy. It's kind of like a water sports tourist venue. It's pretty big, but it can feel at times a little bit busy on the water from mid-July to the end of August. So if you want the consistency, but with fewer, with less traffic on the water, I would say late June, early July, or early September are the best times to come out. But when it's busy on the water, once you're out and you're on the trapeze and you're sending it, it doesn't matter. We've got plenty of space. We use a larger sailing area than all of the windsurfers. Our competition for the water are windsurfers, and they generally tuck up in the corner. So not too bad, even when it's at its busiest. Where else would I recommend in the world? Well, I've seen a lot of great places to sail through Show Us Your Cat and through just listening to people, what they're talking about with their venues. But it sounds like this event in Texas sounds really good. Like the coastline of Texas sounds like it gets some amazing conditions. But from my experience, I know that Cape Town, South Africa, absolutely fantastic. 100 kilometers north of Cape Town is a small town called Langebaan, where the conditions are epic. Epic. Also, Western Australia. I know a lot of guys who sail out of the Nedlands Yacht Club, which looks epic as well. Whenever, I think they only post video when it's been windy. So there we go. All right, back into the preloaded questions. In fact, before we do that, I'm just going to take a short commercial break. We've been going 44 minutes now. Oh, yes. So if you want to support Joyrider TV and look absolutely deadly in the boat park, then get you and your crew and your team a set of Joyrider t-shirts or hoodies or hats, anything like that. It supports the channel, keeps the videos coming, and you'll look better than everybody else in the boat park. It's totaljoyrider.com. Get involved and help keep these videos coming. Thank you very much. So back to the next preloaded question. This one comes from Dean. All right. So Dean is asking about when I rig the Hobie 16 with a Hobie 14 sail, how exactly did I go about doing it? Because if you hoist a Hobie 14 sail on a 16 mast, if you pull it up to the top, you would have this absolutely hilarious looking boat with the boom of the boat. You could actually walk upright, no need to duck under the boom, but it's not going to be very tasteful. It's not going to sail very well, and there's a lot of space there for the main sheet as well. Perhaps I'll try it though to see what it's like to sail with this amount of space at the bottom of the under the boom. Then if you rig the 14 sail on a 16 and you hook it in to the reefing point on the 16, we get the opposite, where we have very much a deck sweeper sail, but it absolutely doesn't work because you can't sheet the main sheet in at all. So what we had to do is a compromise, which is to use either a wire strop or some Dyneema on the top of the 14 sail. So here we have a strop which goes to the main halyard. So the main halyard locks off at the top, and this strop means that it's dropping the sail down exactly the right amount. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how long that was, so there would be a bit of trial and error involved. In fact, what you could do, pull your 14 sail right to the top of the mast, then take a tape measure to where the boom ends up and measure the distance to where the boom should be, and then get a strop of that length. There we go. All right. So Russell says the Discord thing is a bit confusing for me. What servers are you aware of, and what do you type in to find them? Yeah, if anybody could do us a favor and just put the link to the Joyrider TV Discord server in the live chat, that would be great. Yeah, basically it's set up just so that people can exchange details if they want to meet up and go sailing together. So like, for example, if somebody is going to Toronto and they want to go sailing while they're there, put it in the Discord server, and then maybe someone from Toronto will look there and they'll go, oh yeah, you come out with me, easy. And then it's almost like an exchange scheme where someone's coming to your sailing club and they're looking for someone to take them out for a sail. Then you can put it on there. If anybody's coming to my club, then come for a sail. So hopefully someone will share that link in the live chat, and then you can just click on that there, Russell. All right. So Dagoberto Ruben says September is perfect. Vassiliki, thank you. And tuning in from Vassiliki Beach right now, we've got Thomas on board. Great to have you on board, Thomas, as always. I hope the day has been kind to you. I know rather light wind this afternoon, but even in light wind, you can still fly the hull, given a bit of persuasion. All right, turns out it's in the description of the video. Thanks, Russell. All right, next one in the preloaded. This is for FRBO, who says, how is it that, and this is always the controversial one, how is it that a Hobie Cat 16 can go even faster than a Tornado or an F18? It all comes down to, at the end of the day, you could talk about the shape of the sails and stuff, but if you put a 16 rig on a Tornado or an F18, it still wouldn't go as fast as a Hobie 16. Now, why is this? It's because of the shape of the hulls. Now, a boat like a Tornado or a Prindle 19 or Hurricane 5.9, an F18, most F18s, in fact, there are some coming through which are slightly different, but we'll talk about that another time. These boats have got what you would call a traditional hull shape like this. And the traditional hull, so we're looking straight on to the hull there. So this traditional hull shape has a maximum hull speed. I'm not into the science, to be honest, but I know that with, let's say, a Tornado, for example, it has got a maximum hull speed. And once you reach that hull speed, it is going to take an absolute ton of wind to push through and go any faster, because this type of hull cannot plane. There could be a bit of argument that perhaps modern F18s, which have got this sort of hull shape like this, where we've got, it's a bit like a mushroom or an umbrella, where we've got a very flat bottom, perhaps this hull shape does plane, but still, in my experience, I've been doing testing for many, many years in a controlled environment, that this hull shape still doesn't unlock the mega speed like you get on the Hobie 16. Now, because of the Hobie 16 hull shape, we've got a completely flat outside of the hull and then the curved inside of the hull. Now, you may say, well, how on earth are you suggesting that thing planes? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. If you think of a windsurf board or a surfboard, very wide, very flat, we're just looking straight on there, and that flatness skims on the top of the water. In the books, it says it overtakes its own bow wave and surfs down the bow wave, which is what makes the windsurf board not actually have a top speed. Like the Hobie 16, the windsurf board, the top speed is perhaps governed by your ability to stay in control as you throw more wind at it or put on a bigger sail. And of course, then there's also, because these windsurf boards go extremely quickly, it's also to do with the drag that you're getting from the fin. So the fin, they're not all equal. Some fins are very, very efficient, low drag. If your fin's too big, you get too much lift, which could be why on the F18, because the F18 has big rudder blades, maybe we're getting too much lift off the rudder blades, which means that the boat can't push through to the next sort of speed level like the Hobie 16 can. But still, I haven't answered this. But how does it work? Well, this is my theory, which I've spoken to some scientific minds about it, and they think it seems viable. So when we're flying a hull, like this, let's just quite extreme. Okay, maybe we flying the hull that high perhaps isn't going to do it. Then what is happening is all of the pressure on the boat is pushing this way. So it's really loading up this flat side of the hull. Good so far? I hope so. And because it's all pushing onto that flat side of the hull, it means this is kind of sculpting out of the water a piece of water which is like this, or perhaps like this. Yeah, probably more like digging in like this. So what is starting to happen when we're flying the hull loaded with pressure and we're going fast, then this flat outside of the hull is going to start planing, but not traditional planing like flat down. It's planing at an angle. And that is why I believe the Hobie 16 does not have a top speed. It will just keep going faster until you get too scared or you lose control. This is why servicing your rudders is so important if you want to sail fast. That goes for any type of boat. So there you go. That is what I think. That's probably the best I've explained this yet. So thanks very much for the question. All right, last one in the preloaded questions is from Siobhan from Wales, and Dago from Spain. Here again, in Bacalar Lagoon, Mexico, training for an upcoming regatta. Biggest problem in the lagoon is continuous gusts and lulls. So the wind is really volatile up and down. Trying to sail our Hobie 16 here is nuts. Any advice on how to tack the boat as fast as possible with 2 people? All right. So if you're sailing in gusty conditions, gusty would usually mean shifty as well. It's very rare that you get a venue which is so on and off with the wind, where the wind isn't changing direction a bit as well. So wind coming from the top as usual, and we're sailing along. If we want to tack the boat as quickly as possible, if this is our mean wind direction, so if we want to do a really efficient tack, what we want to do is sailing along as tight as, so gone for blue with the sails, with the sails pulled in tight, so we know we're sailing as close to the wind as possible. The timing is really going to speed up your tack. So what timing are we looking for? We're looking for what is called a header. A header is when the wind goes round. So if we're sailing on the port tack here, if the wind goes round to the right, that is a header. So the new wind direction would be like this, which normally, well, the immediate result of a header, if you don't do anything about it, is your jib will flap, or perhaps even if it's a big one, might even back, like the wind might come completely into the other side of the jib. So when we get a header, that is the perfect time to tack, because when we tack, we are going to have the smallest possible angle that we have to turn the boat through. Yeah, this is good. So we want to tack when we get the header. Of course, we want to tack when we get the header as long as we want to tack. Of course, if, let's say we're sailing up to a buoy up here, we get a header, we don't want to tack then, because we're going to have to tack another 2 times to get around the buoy. So there is some sort of strategy involved in that as well. But if we want to tack as quickly as possible, wait for a header and then tack the boat. What we can also do, in fact, this is a strategic point. If you're sailing in wind, which is so up and down, if you think about what your boat speed difference is between the gusts and the lulls, in a gust, let's say you might be doing 10 knots upwind, whereas in a lull, you might be doing 2 knots upwind, maybe 5. Which means if you tack the boat when you're in a lull, yes, the tack is going to take a bit longer, but you're not going to be wasting the progress you could have been making in the gust by tacking. So perhaps that's the strategic point, is when you're in the sweet gust, just keep going with the gust. And then perhaps at the end of the gust, when you can see that gust just about to finish, that would be the time to tack. So you can use your forward motion from the gust as you sail into the lull to turn the boat through the wind. But like this, with the wind shifts, the worst time to tack would be if you get a lift. So a lift would be if the wind goes the other way and allows you to sail closer to the wind. If you tacked then, you'd have to turn a very long distance and you'd lose all of your speed. So I think there's some excellent ideas there straight off. And then, of course, there is the tacking technique. But rather than talking about the actual technique of tacking, I would suggest, because you'll get a far better picture of it, checking out the most recent video on tacking, which is called Why Can't I Tack? That if you use the points in that video, that will refine your tacking technique and you'll be tacking faster. All right. Any other advice on how to smash the Regatta is very welcome. All right. So other advice, just I think any Regatta, best thing you can do for yourself is get out on the water early every day. So be one of the first boats to get out on the water. Don't be the last one. The earlier you can get out on the water, it means you can have a bit of a sail before the start of the race while they're waiting for the other boats. You can spend a bit more time deciding which side of the race course is better to sail in. Generally, because catamarans, the speed difference is so much, the wind is stronger or lighter. One big strategic consideration with which side of the course to go is you want to go where the wind is stronger, generally speaking, unless there's something really strange going on. The stronger wind side of the course is generally going to get you there sooner. And then also by getting out on the water early, you can then have a really good look at the start line and decide on your starting strategy. You could even do a few practice starts, just set your watch to like 2 minutes or something, or even 1 minute, and just have a few practice starts and just see what sort of angle you're getting across the start line, so that when battle commences, you know exactly what to expect. There we go. I think that's pretty good. We can obviously talk about absolutely everything about how to do better on the race course, but we've been going an hour now, and this is a Q&A where we're not going totally deep on every topic. That'll be in the individual videos, of course. Just like to say hello to Lo, who is in South Africa. Great stuff. Great to have you on board. Hello also to Duke, who's just joined the Discord server. Great stuff. And hello to Kathmandu. Nice. From the Gulf Coast, USA. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. All right. So Duke says, tell us about, this will be the last question, by the way. Tell us about a sailing injury you had and how you recovered. Yeah, to be honest, with sailing, I have been very lucky throughout my whole sailing career and never had anything too significant happen. But I can tell you one of the worst things, and it was a real moment, and I'm even going to draw a picture, and it flipping hurt, that's for sure. So I was saying, I'm going to tell the whole story, and this is going to be it for the Q&A. So an FX1 came in, champagne sailing conditions, probably about 18 knots of wind, and the FX1 had broken its tiller connecting bar. So I took the tiller connecting bar off the boat, replaced it with another one, had my trapeze harness on, buoyancy aid. So I thought, right, I'm just going to go and test this to make sure it's okay. So I actually sailed out with the windward rudder lifted. Okay, so the length of the tiller connecting bar had no impact on the handling of the boat. I tacked the boat round using very good technique, put the rudder down. So then on the next tack, I was sailing with both rudders down, and immediately I got out onto the trapeze, went off on a fast reach. Dagger boards were lifted because I was on a fast reach, and the new tiller connecting bar was so the wrong length that the rudders were towed outwards. So the front of the rudder blades were like this. And immediately when I started going fast, the boat just lunged off downwind, did something very peculiar. And what that did, if this is the dagger board, here's the shroud holding the mast up. Okay. So what happened when the boat lunged is I went forwards, lost my footing quite badly, and my leg went between the dagger board and the shroud like that. And then and the gap in between is not very wide at all. And then with my leg in that position, the boat then pitch poled. And oh my word. And I didn't have a wetsuit on, so it was bare leg. And what happened, the injury, there wasn't really anything to see. What happened was I cut through the muscle and everything beneath the skin, but didn't cut the skin. And it blew up with like a massive blister the size of a tennis ball. And this was probably about 15 years ago. And there's still bits of lumps of stuff floating around in there now. And spray went into this. It was so painful. So there we go. And I recovered by just time. But that is the worst sailing injury I've had. Thankfully, I've had pretty bad windsurfing injuries and kite surfing with twisting joints and things. Don't need to know about that. But there you go. Thanks for the question, Duke. That was quite a juicy one. Don't have nightmares. All right, Siobhan's there. Super helpful. Here's to hoping for that heading wind just when we need it. Thanks. Yeah, of course, that is in the ideal situation. But I think the timing of tacking with wind shifts and gusts, along with your general tacking technique, that is going to really work well for you on the race course. So I would certainly, like I said in a recent video on, I don't know what the strap line was. I think it was like how to improve your sailing the most. And it is by when you go out practicing, don't just go out sailing around without focus. go out and practice your tacking in different wind conditions. So go out and say, right, for the next half an hour, we're just going to tack, get the boat going, tack, get the boat going, tack, and then short downwind, do it again. And then after each tack or after each couple of tacks, have a break, talk about it, analyze why the tacks are as they are and how you can improve them. Why aren't we exiting the tack particularly quickly? You're pulling the jib across too soon. It's always the crew's fault, unless you're the crew, in which case it's always the helm's fault. Why aren't we exiting the tack quickly enough? Not easing the main sheet out enough, or maybe you're pulling the main sheet in before the boat's going forwards. That's not going to help. Things like that. So there we go. I think I'm going to call it a day. Thanks to everybody for tuning in live. Thanks to everybody for tuning in later. We've got Stick Daring. When is the channel being named Joyrider TV instead of your name? That is a pretty good question, actually. I have been thinking about changing it, but at the moment, things are going. I think things are going pretty well with the YouTube channel, in terms of subscribers and views, and I don't want to jeopardize that by changing the name. I know that everybody who subscribes will recognize Joyrider TV, but yeah, I'm a little bit superstitious about changing it. Just worried that it's not gonna be quite as good. And I think it's still the case that with YouTube and Google, you can only change it once, and then once you've changed it once, you can't change it again. So that is why. It's because I'm a little bit wary of breaking this thing that I've made. All right, Ryan says, fixing up the honey cat this weekend. Got a late start on day. Nice. Willis, thank you very much for tuning in. Glad you could make it. Glad that everybody could make it. Thank you very much. Please hit the like button before you leave, and I'll see you soon with some more champagne action on Joyrider TV. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.